Hey budget gardeners, Vita Loca here. Join me today as we do a mid-March seedling tour. So let's go. Today is March 20th, and I thought it would be a great day for me to give you an update on how all my seedlings are doing. Some of them are not even seedlings anymore. You can almost classify them as a plant. It's amazing how quickly some plants actually grow. We'll be jumping around. Sometimes we'll be indoors looking at some of the plants, and sometimes I'll bring you outside to look at some plants. Now keep in mind, I have started hardening off some of my plants, the plants that can handle cool weather. But we still have very cool nights. Some nights are in the 20s, even in the teens. So what happens in those nights is I bring in the plants and I put them in my garage. My garage does not freeze. It stays around 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So I definitely at this point am protecting those plants. They're not ready to be planted out in the landscape or anywhere else in the yard. And then there are a ton of plants that are still indoors as well. And they have a long time before they go outside. My average last frost date, based on my zip code, is May 15th. So I have still almost 2 months before a lot of these plants can be brought outside. I've made videos in the past talking about my setup with the grow lights and when the timers come on. What I'll do down in the description below is I'll put links to other videos that you might find useful while you're watching this video. You might have questions on the grow lights that you're going to see behind me, or you might have questions on how I prick out seedlings and pot them up. So I want to make sure that you have all that information at your fingertips. But as always, please feel free to leave a comment below, ask any questions that you have, and I'll get right back to you as soon as I can. Finally, I just wanted to let you know when I'm showing you a plant, I do plan on showing you the date that I started the plant from seed, how many weeks that plant is at this point, and a picture if applicable, just so you can see what the plant's going to look like when it's going to bloom. Okay, the fun part. Let's go ahead and start looking at some seedlings. Here is a tray of geraniums. You'll notice that some of them have buds on them. And at this point, I really should be removing the buds and letting the plant put all its energy into just growing the plant to be bigger and creating a stronger root system. However, I don't have all my geraniums labeled. Many of these geraniums that you're looking at, basically from here onwards, are geraniums that I overwintered from last year. And I overwintered them bare root. I did not label the colors. So once I know what the color is, I will remove the blossom. The other thing I want to mention is I am planning on taking cuttings of my geraniums. And once I do that and I get them rooted, I'll be making a video showing you my process on how to propagate geraniums using cuttings from an existing plant. Here's one. You can see that it's blooming in its pink color, and I do have it labeled. So I'm just going to show you what I would do to remove the buds and the blossom. You just want to follow it all the way down from either the blossom or the bud and just snip that off. It's painful to do, but it's necessary because these plants still have 2 months to be indoors. I can also come in here and cut off some other small pieces that are woody or don't look very good. And that's more maintenance work that I'll be doing in the future. I had not planned on starting any geraniums from seed, but I did collect the seeds for my geranium plants last year. Not many, just a few. So I started those seeds, and I just wanted to show you that here are a couple of geraniums that I started from seed, and they look good. This fall, I'll definitely show you my process for collecting seeds off of your geranium plant. And you can see the difference between a plant that I started from seed this year. It's compact, it doesn't have any buds or blooms on it, versus a plant that was overwintered bare root. It's definitely bigger. It gives me lots of opportunity to take cuttings off of it. And I'm going to do that to make this more compact so that it can grow more at the bottom and be bushier. And you can see there are more buds again that need to be clipped off here as well. Here we have a whole tray of sweet basil, and I've been harvesting from it. You definitely want to keep harvesting from your basil, be it indoors or outdoors. It just makes it so it's a bushier plant. And what happens with basil, as well as many other plants that you want them to become bushy, is once you cut them, like right here you can see I had cut this basil right there in the center. And once I did that, it caused it to then create leaves on both sides where I had cut it. And that's a good thing. You want to keep doing that so it keeps branching out. What's also nice about basil is it's very easy to propagate from cuttings. If you take a nice long piece and you put it in water and you change out the water every day, within about a week or so, it'll create roots, and then you can pot up that plant and you'll have another plant for free. I wish you could smell this. It just smells so great. I love the smell of fresh basil. I recently potted up my opal basil, and I receive a lot of my pots for free. There's a local garden center that has an area where you can recycle pots. You can either drop off pots or pick up pots for free. So I check that almost every week. What I love about this size is they're tall, so it just adds more room for the roots. But then also I can still fit 3 of these wide in a 10 by 20 tray. So it really works out well. One thing I wanted to share with you, when I planted these seeds on the packet, it showed a nice purple color of leaf. Well, they don't look very purple to me. And so I researched it, I looked it up on the internet, and what I found was that in order for these leaves to turn that nice purple color that they're supposed to be, they need more sunlight or more light than I think they're getting indoors. Even though my LED shop lights are nice and bright, I'm guessing that must be the case, that once I bring these outside and they're out in the nice bright sun, they might turn purple. So that will be an experiment for us. We will try that out. But until then, I'm still enjoying this, harvesting the leaves, and I love the smell of it. Well, I thought we could switch it up now and I can bring you outside. So you can see I have a number of plants that are just outside for the day, but they will go back in every night for the next week because we still have some very cool nights. You can see over here, this is a nice big cart that has wheels on it. My husband made that for me using scrap material that we just had on hand. That works out really perfectly for just keeping all the plants together. It's easy to move this cart in, bring the cart back out. And then also I have a small cart here that I used to use when we coached robotics. And so since we don't coach robotics anymore, it's great to use in the garden. Here's a nice tray of spinach. It's looking very healthy. And it's getting ready to be put in the ground or maybe even in some pots this year. Here's a nice close-up of the spinach. Yum. I have a bunch of broccoli, and you'll notice that some of them are bigger, some of them are smaller. And it just has to do with the fact that when I pricked them out of a mass sown seedling tray, I probably pricked out these ones first, and then most likely these ones later. And that just explains the difference in size. Also, you'll notice they need water. Like these ones here seem very dry. Right here, it's a darker brown color, so those are okay. So I'll come out here and water them. And at this point, all these plants are getting a half diluted strength of fertilizer. A couple of the plants are a little on the leggy side, like this one here. What's really nice about a lot of plants, including broccoli, is once you plant them in the ground, what you want to do is just plant them down to where their bottom leaf is, and they will fix themselves. They will correct themselves. So I'm not very worried, and you shouldn't be either, if plants such as broccoli tend to be a little on the leggy side. You can correct it once you either pot it up or plant it out in your landscape or in a container. I want to show you, I switched out my trays. Inside, I like to use solid bottom 10 by 20 trays, but when I'm outside with all these plants, I switched them to these. They basically still have holes in the bottom. They're fully meshed trays on the bottom. They're not solid bottom. So it just makes it easier for me to just water them. But also, while they're outside, if we have a lot of rain, the rain won't collect in the bottom. The rain will drain out. So keep that in mind if you are starting seedlings indoors and you have a solid bottom tray for watering. When you bring the plants outside, you want to take the solid bottom tray away because you don't want your plants to drown in water. And here's a close-up of the broccoli plants, just so you can see what they look like. Okay, funny story. You're probably wondering, why do I have a single plant over here and then a whole tray? I'm going to explain to you. What we're looking at are tuberous begonias, and this is my first year growing tuberous begonias from seed. I normally buy tubers in the springtime. I pot them up, and they are out all summer, and then in the fall, I lift them and store them in my garage because they're not hardy around here. I've also tried growing wax begonias from seed, and I've had a lot of success with that. So this will be my first year having tried tuberous begonias from seed. And these are seeds that I collected last year in a city called Concord, which is close to my house. They were a very, very pretty tuberous begonia. They had a whole bunch of them. And it was like a reddish orange color. And just like I do with a lot of my seeds that I start, I multi-sowed the seeds in a restaurant to go container like this. And I only had pricked out one seed from the container, but I didn't get to pricking out the rest of them. And here's the plant. You can clearly see that this plant is much larger than all of those plants because it's had a lot of time to grow in this big pot here. And it also has a friend. I just pricked out all of these little tiny seedlings from one of those restaurant to go containers. I did it between yesterday and this morning. So this is the size that they all are. Also, this guy was getting fertilizer, whereas all of these were just getting water. I made sure today that they all got fertilizer. And let's face it, some of these seedlings are still very small, so they don't earn the right to have their own cell. So they are sharing, in many cases, a cell with someone else, but they are still much better off in this tray here than they were in the restaurant to go container. I will surely keep you posted on how these seedlings do. I hope that the plants bloom. They should bloom, but you never know. And then I even hope that they produce a tuber that I can then lift in the fall time. We will find out together. At what point do you say enough is enough? What makes it trickier is when you collect your own seeds, you can end up with a ton of seeds. And what makes it even more trickier is that wax begonias as well as tuberous begonias create seeds that are dust-like. So when you mass sow the seeds of either of these begonias, it's hard to count how many seeds you're actually starting. So they all started out in a little container, this one right here. You can see it's not very big. And I sowed all the seeds in here. And look, I still have plants I have not pricked out. I don't even know how many plants are there, but there are quite a few. I was just working on this morning. I really should just give up at this point. In fact, there's the tray that I worked on this morning, and these were probably a few days ago. These were probably a week or two ago. Same with those. And gosh, I don't know when I transplanted those, but you can tell that these were the very first ones to get pricked out and potted up. When I pricked the seedlings out of the restaurant to go container, they were moved up into a small little seedling 6-pack. And then as they started to outgrow their space in here, they were bumped up into another 6-cell pack. And you can see that this is quite a large 6-cell pack. Look at how big these leaves are compared to my hand. That's crazy. And the blossom on this plant will be a nice, pretty white color blossom. Tuberous and wax begonias are extremely slow to grow from seed. So growing them in something like this really works well, especially for me, and it saves a lot of space under my grow lights. And as the plants get a little bit bigger, they do get bumped up into 6-cell packs. And even though I'm bottom watering this because there are holes in the bottom, I'm also continuing to bottom water all of these plants here. Oh my goodness. As I was putting away those wax begonias, I found a couple more. So these also were one of the very first ones to get potted up. And well, I mean, they probably need to get potted up again into something larger than this. Isn't that crazy? And just some more little ones that were potted up probably fairly recently. Yep, I'm definitely going to have a lot of begonias in my yard this year, which is awesome. Okay, these don't look good. So these are more wax begonia, and I think the color is off on them because honestly, I think they really need to be pulled out of this tray and they absolutely need fertilizer. So I will be giving them water today and I'm going to add fertilizer to it. I really, though, don't need any more because I have plenty and you can see the difference with the color, and I'll show you a closer look at some of these. But this is what happens when you don't fertilize. This is what happens when you don't prick out seedlings and bump them up, because if you did bump them up, they would be bigger. But that's okay. It's good to show you the difference. So I started a bunch of seeds in here. They were seeds that I collected. This is a shorter variety of a wax begonia, and it's going to have a nice dark color leaf, and the blossom on it's white. And if you look at them, they actually have a very pretty color to their leaf. And they are a nice big size. I'm very pleased with that. So even though I'm going to add fertilizer and water to this, There are so many other seedlings I'm working on, so I'll keep this limping along. And if I don't get to it, it is okay. I collected the seeds. I didn't buy them, so I'm not wasting a lot of money if I was to just throw these away. But you know I'm not going to throw them away yet. So that's what I plan on doing. But until then, I have quite a few seedlings here, which I'm very pleased with. Here we have some cabbage, and I am noticing I need to water. Boy, I shouldn't be making a seedling video. I should be watering. Anyway, I digress. They all look good, and you can see it's a little windy today, and that's perfect because seedlings need that to get nice and strong. And the same rules apply when you plant these in the ground. You can plant them deeper to the bottom leaves just to make sure you have a nice sturdy plant. And here's a close-up, just so you can see what the seedlings look like. What we're looking at here are a bunch of peppers. This side over here are all mild jalapeno peppers. And I've already started potting up my pepper plants. I still have a lot more to do. So these are all a good size and they're perfect to be potted up. And I'm potting them up into 3-inch pots, which I'll show you shortly. Here we have some very nice orange bell peppers. A lot of these back here are the California Wonder bell peppers. And they're looking great. They have nice green foliage, ready to be potted up. I absolutely love habanero peppers. They are so good, especially like on a mini naan pizza. So yummy. And you can see that the structure or the look of the leaf is quite different than the other pepper plants. These are all habanero right here. Back there are purple bell peppers. I know once you've seen one pepper plant, they all start to look the same, which is so important on why you want to make sure you label your plants. I grow a ton of peppers because when you buy a packet of seeds, there's so many seeds in there. I don't like to carry my seeds over year after year because I know that they start to lose their viability. And I will use a bunch of peppers in my yard, but I also have a backyard plant nursery. And this year I will be offering a number of plants, including pepper plants. I would be lying if I said I do all this myself. Mr. Budget Gardener has been great. He helped me pot up all of these pepper plants. It's a job that he can do, that he enjoys, and it's not as tedious as potting up little teeny tiny seedlings. And he's also been helping me with making up my own potting mix because that's a whole other chore too. Yes, I can buy my own potting mix, but it gets very expensive. So I like to make my own. And he knows the ratio now, which is great. When it comes to the pots, I used to buy my own 3-inch pots, and that costs a lot of money. And so I've been picking up a lot of my pots from my local nursery, and here is a great size. I love this type of size because you can see you can still fit 3-inch pots going across. And I prefer to use square pots than circular pots. Way back when I used to use the round pots, and I found that there were open gaps in between, and I was wasting space in my 10 by 20 trays. And even though these plants are big, I am still bottom watering. You don't have to at this point. The plants are big enough. They shouldn't get any issues in terms of fungal disease, but I don't want to take a chance, so I am still bottom watering. Also, when I bottom water, be it small plants or big plants like this, I can do a whole bunch of trays on my table. I can walk away, make dinner, or do a load of laundry, and come back, and 20 minutes later, everything is well watered. I had started a few of these pepper plants that are meant to stay indoors. I want to keep them indoors. I could grow them outdoors, but my whole purpose for growing these was so that I had some peppers indoors growing that I could enjoy. And you can see here that they are now just starting to bud up, which is super exciting. And I also had potted these up. I put them in these larger pots. Again, I like the size because it's 3 inches this way, but it's actually almost double the size than the pot that I just bumped them up from. This one also has some buds showing. And I will definitely keep you posted on these, and I can't wait to see what they look like when they start having little peppers on them. As I was putting the pepper plant away, I found I had a 4th one. You can see that it must have sprouted pretty late, and that's okay. I am all set. Now I have 4 plants. So here are some cauliflower, and you'll notice that I potted some of these up into 3-inch pots, and then other ones I kept in 6-cell packs, partially because it just takes a lot of time to take each one out and pot it up, and partially because I think some people are going to want to have just one single or a couple of bigger plants, And other people, because I'm going to be selling these in my nursery, some people will want a 6 cell pack. And you can tell that these were pricked out first, so that's why they're bigger. And then these got pricked out later. But there's quite a few here. And normally in these type of little small 6 cell packs, there are 72 plants. So you can see I have 2 trays right here. Here are some more larger size ones. And then some more smaller size ones. So quite a few. This is my first year growing an anemone, and just like many of the other plants I'm showing you outdoors, they can handle the cool weather, which is why they're outside, but they can't handle the freezing weather, which is why they get rolled back in every night. But they are looking really good. I'm very pleased. And I had only bought 1 small pack of them. I picked them up from a big box store local to me. It gets confusing after a while with all the begonias, but I do have labels here, and you can see that these larger ones were pricked out first, and then these smaller ones I just recently have pricked out. And you can see the color of the leaf. They have like a nice dark color to the leaf, although I noticed some of them do not. It's very well possible that some of the seeds got mixed around. Who knows? Also, I collect my own seeds, so it's possible that on the plant that I collected the seeds, there might have been a plant right next to it that had a different color of flower, and therefore it has different seeds. It's all good. I'm fine with that. So these plants will have a light pink color blossom, and according to the tag I have here, they are a shorter variety of wax begonia. And that's a close-up of what it looks like. And you can see I've bumped them up into bigger 6 cell packs. And here are some in smaller 6 cell packs. Pretty soon, ones that are like this size would get bumped up into the bigger 6 cell packs. I recently bumped up the eggplants that I have, and these are meant to be a nice short variety of eggplant that you can put in a container pot, which is perfect. If you don't have a lot of space in your yard, or you don't have a lot of sun, but you do have small sunny patches, which usually is the case, at least for me in my yard, then this works out great because I can keep these in pots and I can put them in the little sunny sections of my yard. And what's super nice is, again, these are pots that I got for free. You can see someone was growing cat grass, which, why would you buy those? You can just like plant your own seeds. It's so easy to grow. But anyway, and I have a video that shows you how to do that. So this works out really well. These are in nice size pots for right now, and I have quite a few of them.
I've been growing ranunculus successfully for a few years now, and here where I live, I need to dig up the corms each fall and store them, and then plant them again in the springtime. And I made a video showing you the process for pre-sprouting the corms, and I'll be sure to add a link to that video down in the description below. At this point, the ranunculus have been moved from indoors, where they were under my LED grow lights, to outdoors, where they're receiving sun and warmth during the day, but they still get rolled back in each night, since we're still getting freezing temperatures each night. They're looking great, and my plan for them this year is to put them in pots on various porches. I'll be sure to show you the process for potting them up, and once they've gone by, later in the spring, I'll be sure to show you my process for digging up the corms and storing them. I was able to divide the corms last fall, which is why I have so many ranunculus, and I'm really looking forward to seeing them bloom later on this season.
It's been a number of years since I bought the vinca plant. I just love collecting the seed year after year. And look how many plants I have. Quite a few. This whole tray here, these are white vinca, and then the next 3 trays are either going to be a medium pink or a hot pink color. And there are a couple of things I'd love to do this year. One of them being to cut these back a little bit as they get longer so that they become bushier. It's always hard to do that with our plants, but it's important, especially if you want a more bushier plant. Also, in previous years, I've never bumped these up. Honestly, you get to a point where it's too much work, but I know with this particular plant, it does not like to dry out. And as the plants get bigger, and especially as I start noticing some roots coming out from the bottom, I really should be bumping these up. Even if I bump them up into that larger 6 cell pack, they'd be better off than staying in these smaller ones. And here's a close-up of what the plants look like. They start to get kind of like a little white stripe on the leaf. It's very interesting. Back to more begonias. And again, this is my fun experiment for this year. These are tuberous begonias. I have yellow tuberous begonias, and I've been overwintering them in my garage for the last few years. I collected the seeds off of those begonias. I originally multi-sowed these in a restaurant to-go container. Then I bumped these up into 6 cell packs. And as they got larger, I started to bump them up into 3-inch pots. And here's a close-up of what this plant looks like. I'm just fascinated with it. I think it's so neat, so interesting. And look at the leaf on this one. Very cool. So I'm happy with the number of tuberous begonias that I have here. And again, some of these are smaller for the simple reason that they either germinated later or I didn't get to pricking them out until later, but they'll catch up. Okay, I'm being lazy. I admit it. I am not going to take out all the trays of the beacon impatiens. I did a video recently showing you how many beacon impatiens I had grown from seed. And on the screen, what you're looking at is how many trays I have. And this is a nice close-up of what the little plants look like. They're very sweet. They're very cute. And even though they don't have a lot of roots coming out from the bottom at all, they would benefit from being bumped up. And that will be a big project on its own. But for now, they are still doing okay in their little 6 cell packs. The onion are looking great. I did give them a haircut, but they have grown since. And that's optional. You can do that or not do it. I don't find that it helps the onion any. I think it just keeps it easier to manage, especially if you have them indoors under your grow lights and they're getting too tall. Then it's always good to cut them back, and you can use them as a garnish, like on a salad or something. But I love how they are so wispy in the wind. I primarily grow lettuce for indoor use, and my goal is to grow it all year long indoors. I haven't achieved that goal yet, but that is my goal. I really like to grow lettuce indoors because I already have invested in my LED shop lights. So it makes it easy for me to just, my kitchen is right next to this space where my grow room is, to clip off pieces of lettuce and make a salad every day. I know myself, and I am not very good about going out to the garden and clipping lettuce off every day. Plus, I'm too lazy and I don't like it when the dirt splashes onto the leaves. However, I do realize I could put down some sort of a black plastic to prevent that from happening. But anyway, this works for me, and this is a nice blend of lettuce. And all I've been doing is I cut on the outside, the bigger leaves, but I keep the center part intact. And it's just called the cut and come again method. So you can see I've done quite a bit of that. Eventually what's going to happen is this will keep growing taller and taller and producing less. And at that point, I'll just throw this away. This will go into my compost pile. But there are all different kinds of lettuce here. So delicious and yummy. Look at the leaves on that one. In previous years, I have potted these up into bigger pots. And for this year, I'm leaving them in these 3-inch pots. It's been working out, but I will admit I have to water these quite often because they're in the smaller pots. For the purposes of succession planting, even though it's indoors, I did start a few more little seedlings, and so those are looking great. And what's nice is once all of these go by, I will then have these. And I wish I had planted a little bit more than these. It's still not too late. I can still start more, but at least this will get me by when I'm done harvesting from this lettuce here. The lettuce sits up high on the top of my grow light system there, so you better believe I might as well just clip off the leaves that I need for dinner tonight so that my husband has a nice fresh salad. And I'm noticing these probably need some water, so I'll do that next. It's called multitasking. Oh, yum. Do you remember me planting the little teeny tiny cucumber? And it's one of those cucumbers that's meant to either go in a pot, and in my case, I want to have it as a cucumber that's growing indoors. I think I planted 2 seeds and 1 survived and it wasn't looking good. Well, here it is. So I am very happy. It's looking great. I did pot it up into this large 3-inch pot, but it's very deep. And the best news is, check it out. If you look carefully, there's a little tiny blossom, and there are little buds in there as well. I'm so excited. So hopefully this one little plant lives on. So cute. So far you've seen the little tiny cucumber as well as the small, I'll call them dwarf variety peppers. And then we have the dwarf variety tomatoes. And those are looking great. In fact, you can see that there are a ton of blossoms on here. Now, I didn't water it one day, maybe 2 days, and it got little crispy leaves. And what happens with tomatoes, if you don't water them and there's a whole bunch of blossoms on them, is that the blossoms are sad. So that's what's going on here. But you can see there are little tiny tomatoes that are forming, which is super exciting. So I think this plant has forgiven me. And this one here has little buds on it. And there's a close-up of the buds. How nice is it if you want to just grow indoors? You can do things like this. And I'm just using regular LED shop lights to grow things like micro tomatoes, micro peppers, micro cucumbers. I just think that's awesome, as well as lettuce. You can have your own little salad bar indoors. I was about to put this tray away. I just quickly wanted to show you. I stagger my plants in a 10 by 20 tray. So you can see here are the 2 tomatoes. I have a bunch of the eggplants in here, but I also want to make sure that these tall plants are not like crowding a small plant. So I just staggered the tall plants with the short plants. Here are those little micro peppers, and here is the cucumber. And they're intermingled with all those little eggplant. So it works out really well. I'm all about maximizing space under my lights. So what we're looking at over here is Swiss chard. I love the color of Swiss chard. And what I really like too is that it pretty much lasts all season long. I love the red color, just so pretty. And here are some Brussels sprouts. All of these are in 3-inch pots. They've been growing indoors, and then I moved them outdoors. And they've been potted up. Isn't that just gorgeous? I love it. I think it looks so pretty. And here are some pansies, lots of pansies. I've been growing pansies from seed for a number of years, and I just collect my own seeds when it comes to pansies. There's some blue colored ones, some purple, and some yellow. And they're not blooming yet, but hopefully soon. And you can see that I bumped them up into these big 6 cell packs. But I have to show you, in my yard I have pansies that overwintered. And so while I wait for the seed pansies to bud up, I at least have these gorgeous pansies that I can take out of my landscape, and I can put these in pots and containers. I really need to do more of that next year. I say it every year, but I really need to just plant some out in my landscape in the, probably I imagine sometime in the summer, let them get a little bit of size to them. And then in the spring, I'll have a nice sizable plant that's already blooming. Goals. Those are my goals for later this year. Okay, remember what I mentioned earlier about staggering plants and maximizing space? That's what I'm doing here. I'm going to take you in for a closer look at these plants, but I just wanted to show you, I really try to have some taller plants with some shorter plants, and these are all big plants, so these don't need to have light directly on them at this point. So these all live on the top shelf of my grow light system. And I made a video showing you how to use that top shelf of your grow light system and basically retrofit it to add lights up there. I'll be sure to add a link to that video down in the description below. Cilantro thrive in cool weather, and if I wanted to, I could definitely put these on my rolling cart outside. But honestly, I love eating my fresh herbs indoors. I love to eat cilantro in like my Indian food, my Mexican food, so these will stay indoors. And I bump these up as well into these bigger 3-inch wide pots, but they're deeper pockets to the pots. And hiding over on the side there is just a little baby cilantro. It germinated much after these plants did. I'm not sure why, but that's okay. It's automatic succession planting, because when these plants go by, then that little baby cilantro hiding over here will be ready to take off. What started off as a little simple cutting last summer of this wire vine has now turned into a bunch of plants. In fact, I recently took more cuttings from this plant and I'm trying to root those as well. But for today, I just wanted to show you the progress on the plants that I have that have been bumped up into these bigger pots. They look great. They are going to be a wonderful spiller that's going to come out of a lot of my container pots. I'm very excited that I was able to just turn a small little cutting last fall into so many plants. And what's nice is because I keep taking cuttings off of it and propagating more plants, it's actually really making a nice form to the plant. I really like the way that it's turning out. And if you look right there, that's a nice node that I could take this cutting and put that in soil, because you can see it's just barely starting to create little tiny roots, little nodules that could easily turn into bigger roots if you were to put this in soil right there. And right there you can see it's actually creating roots. I could take that, cut that, and put that in soil, and there's a nice another piece of cutting that I have. Here we have a ton of alyssum, and they're all a white color. Each 10 by 20 tray has 72 plants in it. So you can see I have quite a bit of alyssum here. And I still have plenty of alyssum to prick out and put into 6 cell packs. I'll do my best to get to them, but if I don't get to them, it's okay. I collected these seeds, so they were very cheap to me, and I have plenty of alyssum to go around. So far, I have pricked out from this tray here 72 of the blue lobelia. And that's a good fair amount, but I still have quite a few. And I really do use this out in my yard, so I will be pricking out more. They start off pretty tiny, but they do grow pretty quickly, which is very exciting. And of course, I have another whole tray of blue lobelia. I better get busy. I have a lot of work to do. And then I have a small tray here of white lobelia. So when it comes to prioritizing, since I have not pricked out any white lobelia yet, this would take precedence over pricking out any more blue lobelia. Because if I run out of time, I'll be sad that I didn't prick out and save any of my white lobelia plants. So I have quite a few here. Here's some more alyssum, and I don't know if you remember from a previous video, I had some very, very old seed. It was the pastel mix, and it looks like they're either going to be maybe purple color or pink color alyssum. And I had said that my goal was to even have one seed or one seedling survive. So this is my one seedling challenge times a few. And you can see that they're not dead yet, so that's a bonus. And they're looking great. And my goal for this year is to grow these on, put them in a cute little pot out in the yard or whatever I end up doing. But then I want to collect the seeds off of them, so then I can grow plenty more for next year. Growing lavender from seed is something that's new for me, and I made a video recently showing you my process for what I needed to do to cold stratify the lavender seed and then pricking them out of a Ziploc bag that had a pre-moistened paper towel in it. And I'll add a link to that video in the description below in case you're interested. And although these plants are still quite small, you can see that they are just starting to get their first set of true leaves, and at this point they are getting fertilizer. Sometimes you'll notice a little bit of green on the top. I'm not worried about that. That's usually not harmful to your seedlings. I know some people like to put vermiculite on when they are sowing their seeds, but trust me when I say that that is not harmful to your seedlings. When it comes to small little plants like this lavender, it's my preference to make sure that they are well watered. I don't want them to dry out. And at some point, I will bump these up into a bigger container, but for right now, they're still quite small. So they're going to stay in these little 6 cell packs for a while. It's hard to tell when you look here because it looks like a lot of things did not germinate. And maybe they didn't, but this is delphinium. And I also made a video showing you my process for getting the delphinium seeds to germinate and then putting them in these 6 cell packs. Also, I'll link that video down below in case you want to check it out. There are about 50 plants here, and I think that's a really good amount of delphinium. So I'm happy with how many I have. I just haven't had time. If I wanted to, I could easily prick out some and consolidate my plants, but this isn't taking up too much real estate for right now under my grow lights, so I'm going to leave them as is. When I had the seeds germinate in my Ziploc bags, I did put them in these cells. So they might still pop up. My experience has been, even if the seeds germinated, they still might be slow to come through the soil. And if they don't come up, that's fine too, but that's why I'm leaving them as is. And at this point, these seedlings are receiving a half a dose of fertilizer when they're getting watered. I'm very excited about having delphinium in my yard. I want to make a nice little cottage garden, and I think these will look beautiful there, along with some lupin, and if I can get some foxglove, I think that would be great. Well, it's still in a restaurant to-go container. I will be working on this soon. This is a coleus that I collected the seeds from, and it's the Kong mix variety. I have a ton of seeds that germinated. So those will be getting pricked out soon enough, and I'll be putting those into 6 cell packs. I keep telling myself 8 weeks until my last frost date. I still have 8 weeks. I am not worried that these seedlings are small because it's okay. They will take off in no time. Aren't they the cutest little things though? Okay, I know you're like, wait, we just looked at this. This is a different type of coleus, and these are just, I called it coleus mix, and it was just a mix of different coleus varieties and seeds that are still in their restaurant to-go container. But they're looking good, and I'm still watering all of these. I'm just bottom watering them. And more coleus in a restaurant to-go container. And you can see that the germination is a little sparse. It could be that the way that I sprinkled the seeds, it could be that it dried out in between a little bit, but this is the Colocha rose, and I absolutely want to grow these. Last year was my first year growing this from seed that I got from Baker Creek, and I don't buy a lot of seed, but I did buy those seeds, and it was beautiful. I collected the seeds, and I want to see if these will grow true or fairly true to their original mother plant. And if you look carefully, they are actually just starting to get their second set of leaves. So they need to get potted up and they need some fertilizer. Some more coleus. This is just labeled green coleus. And this is just some coleus that I had collected from a park. And I didn't have a lot of these seeds. So it looks like just one has come up. And that has a pink center to it with some green on the outside. And yet more coleus. And again, these are seeds that I collected. So what I wrote down was that it has a green center to it with a red trim around it. So for whatever reason, there's a lot of good germination over here, a lot of good germination over there. But if you look carefully in the center, they are just starting to sprout. Well, to be honest with you, I had not checked on the dahlias that we had started from seeds. And look, they're all coming up. That day we planted all of these together, and then I was going to plant a whole bunch more. I haven't gotten to that yet, so I will be getting to that. But I'm glad to see that we have great germination happening with the dahlia seeds that we sowed together. In the video that I made for lavender, I had mentioned that the seeds sometimes take a long time to germinate. And all of these need to be pricked out. And you can see it's quite green in here. Again, I'm not going to worry about it. And this has actually been undercover. I just looked at it, and I will be pricking all of this lavender out. And I didn't even show you all the lavender that I still had in 6 cell packs. So I'm so excited. I had a lot of great germination with my lavender. And just close-up shot of the lavender in here. One thing that I can't stress enough is if you sow seeds and for whatever reason something doesn't go right, don't give up, especially if you still have time on your side. Don't give up, just sow them again. I have usually had great luck with azuradium, and I do have some here. I'm almost sure that I had let this dry out, and to be honest with you, it's still been on a heat mat. So what I'll be doing is I'll be coming in here and pricking out any azuradium seeds that have germinated. But then I'm just going to start some more. It's not the end of the world. I love azuradium. I want more azuradium. And for that reason, I typically will save my seeds. I won't just sow them all, so that if something goes awry and not the way that I want it to go, I just start some more seeds. And that's a lesson I definitely want to teach during these videos that I make. And it's not like I don't have any. I definitely have some, but you can see based on the number of plants that I like to grow, 8 or 10 plants is not enough, especially for ageratum. I want more. And since I want more, I will sow more. Last year, I grew way too many snapdragons. If you've been watching my videos, you know that I don't have like a cut flower farm or a cut flower garden. And so I have very limited space, and I also have limited areas of full sun. I could stop right here, and this would be plenty of snapdragons. This is what I have left. And I keep limping it along and watering them, but I have to pick and choose the seedlings that I'm going to be pricking out. These are just seeds that I collected last year. These seeds were free to me, so it's nothing wasted. But if I have the time, I would love to have an extra tray of snapdragons. And the ones I was able to prick out are looking good. They're looking healthy. There are some areas where seedlings just don't look very good, like over here. So I'll just prick out from here and just replace these. Otherwise, I think they look beautiful. The plants that are getting bigger, I think they look great. My phone just told me the battery is about to die, so I'm going to talk very quickly. I hope you enjoyed that tour. I have so many plants that I've started. I have so many more plants that I need to start. I am so excited because, well, I'm excited that I get to teach high school students, but I have a number of days off because of the Easter holiday. And you can bet that I will be working on a lot of these seedlings and prioritizing. And that's the name of the game, is prioritizing the plants that I want to salvage, the plants I need to let go, and then the plants I still need to start. Like I want to start my tomatoes. I still have plenty of time. Like I said, 8 weeks before my last frost, so I still have a lot of time there. I also want to do some winter sowing of some cool flowers. I have saved a lot of milk jugs, and I'll be showing you that process of doing some winter sowing for plants at this time of the year, now that it's nearing the end of March. I hope you enjoyed this tour. As always, if you have any questions, please drop them down below. I will be sure to link any videos that I think would be helpful related to what you saw today. And until the next video, make it a great day with gardening. Yay! While I was waiting for my phone to charge, I figured, now what can I do? I potted up a whole tray, which is 72 plants, of the Colocha rose coleus. Very exciting. And now they can just get bigger in their little new homes. And when time permits, I can pot up more Colocha rose coleus as well as other plants. Happy gardening, friends.